that kind of molding and twisting into whoever you think your partner wants you to be can sometimes be masked or excused as compromise. And by the end of my relationship that I had coveted and wished for and cherished and worked on so much, I was left with me. You're only just going to have yourself. And I couldn't recognize me. I didn't know what I stood for. I was scared of like having the strong opinions that I always do have, because he would like pick them apart and make me feel so inadequate. Like inadequate was the word that like I always felt like I was just like a bull in a china shop.
Welcome to Rejection Rehab, the only podcast out there specifically designed to help you get over the fear of rejection and build lasting confidence. Each week I interview an absolutely enthralling new human being who's gone through their fair share of rejection but overcome it and built lasting confidence. This week it gives me huge pleasure to introduce you to Isabel MV. Isabel is an investment banker turned VC specialist turned podcaster who is bringing to life her fantasy of being Carrie Bradshaw in real life. For those of you who don't know who Carrie Bradshaw is, she is the fictional character played by Sarah Jessica Parker in Sex and the City. Isabel hit rock bottom last year when she broke her leg and had her heart broken at the same time, leading to a serious low and depression. Her road to recovery started with her podcast, and just like that, we found therapy, which is a podcast that dives into the relationship psychoanalysis of Sex and the City to debunk the romanticization of toxic relationships. But most importantly, she's a great friend of a friend of mine. Isabel, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's a pleasure to be here.
Listen, we've talked quite a lot recently about relationships and about what you've been through, but I would love it if you could just bring us back to that low point where you hit rock bottom, where you were injured, you were heartbroken. You know, you said to me, you know, this show is all about rejection, getting over it, and building lasting confidence. You said to me you rejected yourself. I think a lot of people do that. Can you just go into that a little bit?
Yes. So to bring everybody to the page of my book where I basically hit rock bottom, basically last year, the year started with me finding out that I did not have a sprained knee, but I had broken my tibia plateau and I needed surgery. And basically, I had no time to decide how, who, where. They basically kind of like, I went into the NHS and it was like, you need surgery tomorrow. I was very scared. And it basically meant that they had to put 2 screws through my tibia. And that meant that I could not walk for 2 months. So fast forward, I think 6 months where I kind of went through a big setback in my recovery of my injury and stuff like that, where I lost my complete self-identity because I could not walk, I could not go to the gym, I could not run, I could not wear high heels. I started to get this motto ingrained in my head of like, I'm not good enough. And I wasn't good enough to like close a deal in my job. I wasn't good enough to recover from this injury in a timely manner. I wasn't good enough for this guy that kept half showing up in my life. And I kind of like repeated that to myself every day, several times a day, not good enough. And I'm a loser. And that is basically my self-rejection summed up.
So, you know, I think a lot of people out there are doing a similar thing in rejecting themselves. We talked on this show about other people rejecting people, you know, being dumped, you know, not getting a role in a movie or whatever it is. But here you're rejecting yourself. What do you say to everyone else out there who is rejecting themselves? Because you've managed to kind of come out the other side. But in the moment, what do you say to people who are going through this self-rejection?
I think for me, the biggest thing was to come out of like the victim mentality and recognize it for what it was. That is that I kept putting myself down and rejecting myself on a daily basis. I could not feel worthy of anything nice or kind of like break or being lazy, like, you know, for crying out loud. Like I couldn't even bring my own coffee with me to the sofa for 2 months because I was on crutches, and I cut myself no slack. And I think many women do get stuck in that, like, oh, he's rejecting me, poor me, how dare he. But many women fall into rejecting themselves when they keep showing up for a man that has repeatedly shown them he's not going to choose you. So I think for anybody that is feeling maybe like the victim, like, why can't I catch a break? Why doesn't life throw me a bone? First off, like, are you throwing yourself a bone? I think the first step is just recognize it. Are you rejecting yourself? Are you blue balling yourself?
So basically seeing what you're doing to yourself is the first step, like seeing it and then taking action. And I'd love to hear the action point, because you went from a place of real self-rejection and not believing in yourself to then starting a podcast. And I think it takes a bit of courage to start a podcast, and it takes you can't really be super scared of vulnerability, I think, because you're really putting yourself out there. So how did you take yourself from this point of self-rejection? You've recognized that, you're like, look, I've rejected myself. I know that, but actually I want to get away from that point. How did you do that?
So I think it took me such a long time to admit to myself how bad it gotten. And I kind of like got to a point with this man in my life where I hadn't realized, but like for the better part of 2 years, I had tweaked and like bent over backwards to fit into a mold. Like every time that something went wrong in our relationship, I tried to like go through it in my mind and be like, what was it that triggered that? Like we were fine just like 3 hours before that, and then tweak it and make sure like I was walking on eggshells to the point that I became a shadow of myself. My injury also made me be able to create kind of like this fortress where nobody was allowed in. So the only voice that I heard was my critical voice, repeating and replaying all the things that I'd done wrong with this man that I felt kept rejecting me. I kept hearing that I was a loser because I hadn't closed a deal all year. And also like my knee hurt, so I must have done something wrong and maybe I wouldn't be able to walk for like another 2 weeks, like the other setback. And I had to make a lot of tough choices. I had to first take 1 month off my job, and I am self-employed now. I work in venture capital, so if I'm off, nobody's covering my clients, nobody's hustling on my behalf. And I had to pick up the phone, and this was a very tough conversation to all my clients who at this point, I think some of them were not even paying me a retainer. I was just going to be working basically on a success basis. And as I told you, I hadn't closed anything that year, so earned $0 or pounds or euros. And I told them, like, I'm going to take a month off, and when I come back, I'm not going to work for anybody that is not going to pay me a retainer. And that also kind of meant, like, I'm valuing my own work. I'm valuing my own time, which I didn't used to, because my background was in a different asset class, and I didn't think that I deserved that. I also kind of had a conversation with this man, and I said, you know what? I can't do this anymore. You cannot be in my life. This is me being kind enough to say I'm not going to be answering any attempts that you make in contacting me. And I took myself away to the place where I last remember for it being okay for me not to be producing, doing, dating, creating, which is my hometown, where I felt like shit. But basically, it was a very long journey of like me taking a train and a ferry and driving me and my dog to my hometown for 7 hours and back. And I felt really empowered. And it was something as silly as that, to be like, you used to think that you were such a bad bitch. And for the past 7 months, you haven't been able to voice your opinion to your friends because you think that everybody thinks that you're a loser. And basically, I started to find all the things that got me super excited. Like, I cannot put this notebook down until I write everything down that I'm thinking right now, because this is my creative process. So I created my podcast because what I needed to stop rejecting myself was a stage and a bunch of lights to put on a show and create a caricature of my personality and lean into the sassiness that I remember having.
I love the way that you, I mean, people talk about a reset, and I don't really like that expression, but it seems like you really did kind of press the reset button here. And I just have a couple of questions because I do want to get onto the podcast. But when you said to the people, first of all, I'm going to talk about the professional, then I would love to talk about the relationship. When you said to those clients, look, I'm not going to come back and work for you unless you put me on retainer. What percentage of those clients were like, okay, fine, great, let's do it, versus, no, we can't do that?
I think it was 50%. It wasn't that big. Everybody kind of understood.
50% is great.
I'm only one person, so there's not that many clients. So to me, it felt not like a win, but everybody kind of understood it. And I've come to a point now where I can refer new clients to my old clients, even the ones that never paid me a retainer and stayed there. And the reviews are getting me retainer paying business. So
I mean,
you're
probably quite... Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's paid forward in some ways, but like at that point, I remember feeling a bit of a lackluster of like, oh, I thought everybody would be like, of course, but like, can we make it work with like maybe an equity portion in the company or something like that? But basically, I was finding everything to validate my feeling of rejection at that point.
Fair, but I think from an outsider's perspective, I mean, I think 50% is pretty amazing to and saying, look, this is what I'm worth, and I'm worth being on retainer. And then I think getting 50% of the people who, you weren't on a retainer before, I think that's pretty incredible. And I also think it shows a lot of guts and determination and inner self-confidence to finally say to that guy, I'm not putting up with this anymore. And I want to talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, before we get onto your podcast, because I feel what I'm hearing, I feel, and I've done this before in romantic relationships, where you love someone so much that you want them to keep loving you, and you'll do almost anything for that to be the case. And if there's something they don't like, you'll kind of change yourself a little bit or try and change the way you act so that you think they'll end up loving you as much, if not more, than they did before. And the danger there is you lose yourself, you lose your sense of self, and then you end up being a people pleaser, and then they don't like you as much as they did before anyway, because they kind of liked you for who you were, and now you're trying to change yourself. And that's my experience. I'd love to know if that's kind of similar to what you were experiencing, and just go into that a little bit.
I think it's bang on. It's just such a slippery slope, because that kind of molding and twisting into whoever you think your partner wants you to be can sometimes be masked or excused as compromise. And this relationship was always so blurry and like the definition and the labels. And I feel like I almost got it to what I wanted it to be, but then something I would think I've done something that is like, it's kind of like knocked it a few meters away again. Like I let me replay it again. What did I do wrong? What? And it's just like that I was trying to gather information to basically get to a point where I felt like those lines weren't blurred anymore, and I had the security for then me be able to ask, what's going on? This is not working for me. I didn't feel like I was entitled to that space until I got to feel secure. And I thought that for me to feel secure, I had to bend over backwards to be it. And then I'd be like, okay, now you got it. Now this is what I want.
It's so interesting that we do that as humans. And I think it's only natural. You want other people to like you, but I think that you run the risk of losing a sense of self and losing self-confidence in the process. And That's actually what I want to ask you about next. You said you lost a lot of sense of self and self-confidence. How did you get it back? And what do you say to other people who are in relationships and have lost self-confidence and a sense of self because the relationship hasn't been going well or because of the way that their partner's treating them?
So I like to keep a journal, and I started doing it seriously last year because I think the first step is sometimes it takes maybe 3 months or 6 months too long for you to see what's actually happening. And I've seen friends say this, like, oh, now that I look back, like, I'm no longer as close with my girlfriends because I know it'd be easier if we just hang out with his friends and stuff like that. But let me roll that tape forward for you. By the end of my relationship that I had coveted and wished for and cherished and worked on so much, I was left with me. You're only just going to have yourself. And I couldn't recognize me. I didn't know what I stood for. I was scared of like having the strong opinions that I always do have, because he would like pick them apart and make me feel so inadequate. Like inadequate was the word that like I always felt like I was just like a bull in a china shop. I honestly, I think always keep grounded. And if that's a journal, make sure you journal. If that means having your rituals of like going to the gym that I was like stripped off last year as well, going for a walk with your dog that I was also stripped off last year, all those little rituals that make you who you are, make sure that if you feel that you put them aside just because you're get to spend more time with him, or just because it annoys him when you're not there when he gets home, or whatever it is, like, it doesn't mean that you're going to have to be a raging bitch and be like, you know what, I don't care that you're like it, I think it just means like, oh, actually, I'm not going to be there because I really like I actually love people who have strong boundaries and really stand up for what they really love. Because at the end of the day, that's, as you said, what makes them them. So be quick to spot those things, keep a journal, keep grounded. And if you see that you're compromising a bit too much, have a chat. If it doesn't go well, walk away.
Absolutely. You don't want to be with someone where you're constantly trying to change yourself in order to please them. It's just, that's never going to last. And I applaud you for walking away when you did. You're an amazing inspiration to other people out there. And speaking of inspiration, your podcast is pretty inspirational. I really want you to go over, what it is and how it can help people.
So my podcast started kind of like off the back of like this heartbreak. I think there's so many women that have watched Sex and the City, and there's this main character, Carrie, that has this big love with someone named Mr. Big, and he's so toxic. But in the series, they kind of like end up together, and then there's movies and they end up getting married, and he's loaded. And I have said to my friends, and they've said to me, well, maybe he's your Mr. Big, kind of like a man that is hard to crack, but eventually it's worth it because he like confirms and chooses you and shows up the way that you want him to show up. So I started it with the following format, which is like each one of my episodes of my podcast is an episode of the show, and I invite a relationship coach or a therapist to say like, all right, what would you make out of this? Like if Carrie was your patient and she came in and she was like, well, he actually left me in my apartment and went to St. Bart's with somebody else. Like, instead of reading it as like, oh, he likes you so much he got scared, so he's avoiding. No. He's being a dick. You deserve better. But like, it was just kind of like, okay, you can live your life as Carrie Bradshaw, but like if you want actually the theory behind it and how to live maybe a more healthy dating life, these are the notes.
I know that it must be therapeutic for other people to see this. Do you feel as though the podcast and the stuff you've produced on it has been therapeutic for you?
so much. And I know that you give me shit because I edit all my own content, but I'm just now editing the video to upload them on YouTube. And it hasn't even been a year since I recorded my first episode. I'm getting so much out of it by editing it again. And like I've listened to them so many times. So 100%.
All right. Well, how do people see it, hear it, and learn a bit more about you?
So you can find me on Spotify and Apple Podcast. The name of the podcast is And Just Like That We Found Therapy. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at We Found Therapy Pod. I'm also now on YouTube, and I have my own Substack where I do truly try to be Carrie Bradshaw in real life. And I have the little story where if you want a sob story about rejection, you can read the 6th part that introduces the podcast on there. And I think it's also We Found Therapy Pod Substack.
Superb. Now, a few remaining questions that I asked to all of my guests. Favorite book, favorite movie?
Okay, favorite movie. I love Mean Girls, but to sound a bit more highbrow, anything Tarantino, like Inglourious Basterds is a great movie, but even like True Romance, which I don't think was directed but written by Tarantino, is great. And favorite book, I think it was Annabelle who said she loved Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I loved Fountainhead. I think it's 1,000 times better than Atlas Shrugged. But there's so many books. I think for this type of podcast, I would say The Courage to be Disliked is a great reminder on how to not feel like a victim or rejected. But otherwise, yeah, Fountainhead.
Fantastic. And what do you think is the whole purpose of us being here? The kind of reason we're on this planet?
Well, you know what? I actually have a meeting with a witch in Colombia who's supposed to tell me what I'm here to do.
Are you serious?
Because I am serious.
How'd you get in touch with a witch?
Don't ask. But yeah, I think we're here to, create and make the world a better place. But I think I have a calling. I'll keep you posted on what the witch says.
Okay. What's your favorite quote?
Actually, James Baldwin is one of my favorite writers, and he has a quote that is, you cannot, wait, let me pull it out because it's too good to mess up. Right. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
Oh, I love that. I need to write down all of these ones, and I feel like I'll have just a book ready to be published. That's a real goodie. Well, Isabel, thank you so much for taking the time to be on this podcast. You are a super inspirational person, and you've managed to pull yourself through a ton of, physical and emotional rejection, and, have produced an incredible podcast out of this, and are just a great person. And I hope we have you back on. Thank you so much, everybody. Isabel MV.
Thank you, Tom. It's been a pleasure, and I think what you're doing is amazing.